What is up, everybody? I am Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL Caleb 22. Here with my man Derek, also known as DWeezy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Uh, my ankle ain't doing very good, but uh, it's healing. But also not doing very good in the betting part either. But it happens. But this is betting the NFL Conference Championship week. Um, yeah, so we only got two games to talk about this week, four games to recap, and we'll get started with those. Last week, all the I think all the home teams were favored, um, and the favorites went 1-3, and then all the so that means all the home teams went 1-3 as well. The over unders split at 2-2, and so yeah, that was pretty interesting. It was interesting to see after week wild card weekend where all the upsets hit. All the underdogs were winning, and then or I mean, all the favorites were winning, and this week all the road teams were winning. So it was a flip flop of wild card weekend. Um, but yeah, what did you think about that?
Yeah, you would almost expect a sort of flip flop of those two narratives. More the underdog succeeding in that first week and maybe a position where a team was not necessarily overlooking them, but not quite expecting the game that they got. And that Cinderella story coming to an end in that second week when you're facing that potential number one seed, number two seed. Uh, So yeah, it's kind of it's a little surprising that things played out the way they did. Um,
Yeah.
I will be dubbing Aaron Rodgers from now on as COVID toe Rogan. Um, that's just my feelings towards that. Uh, I was actually able between the games and just the way things played out this past weekend was able to find a plus number behind the fact I took I found a not quite sure how they reference it. Essentially, futures props. Picked the two finalists for the Super Bowl.
Oh,
Had
nice.
KC, had Green Bay. Well, to to hedge it off, if I'm not mistaken, it was plus 550, I believe. Well, if you remember earlier in I think I'm looking at the wrong thing right there. But essentially, I took 49ers money line. I had Buffalo. I already had KC on the spread because of the picks we made last week. So more or less, those two would end up sort of canceling each other out, and ended up with a plus 100 off the money line from San Francisco because if I'd also took Green Bay on the spread last week.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, it was just when you can find those break even way, it it's just working those angles and sort of bending the book back on itself.
Mhm.
That when they put out a lot of propositions, that's when you can find a lot of different angles, and that's where you can start to take advantage of the book because the more the more propositions, the more numbers there are, the odds aren't always going to be the same. That's currently something I'm investigating across other sports as well because you don't have to be a genius in the sport.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to be some great football head, some great analytics person. You don't have to be some great researcher. If you can find angles that work and put yourself in good positions to make good plays in a repetitive fashion, you're setting yourself up for success. You're likely to end up not necessarily with more winners, but definitely in more situations where you were more likely to win than lose. And unfortunately, luck wasn't on your side. And when you can
Yeah.
end up in a lot of situations like that, you'll find yourself probably winning more times than not. And
Yeah.
that's where you kind of get into a scenario where when you can sort of figure out how to find a good bet, not making a bet is still a good move. Like a lot of people misunderstand that Just because you didn't make a bet doesn't mean you made a bad mood.
Yeah, you
A
didn't
bad
lose.
move. Yeah. Even if you not making the play was the wrong decision. Like that's my one thing. If you're not confident about something you do, regardless if you end up trying to hedge something off, you know, if you're not confident in something you're playing, there's no reason why you should play it. And not to say that it was a bad play or anything like that, but you should feel that you're making the right choice. Of course, I don't think anybody should be trying to bet anything beyond their means, but you want to win. And so you want to put yourself in the best chance to win with the best scenario. And sometimes that's not as hard as it sounds.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned all the different angles of how to bet this and different bets you have made. Because we're getting down to a few teams left, and there's not a lot of games to bet on. So we need all different type of angles we can to try to win some money here. Only got a couple more chances here. So yeah, hopefully some people take your advice and look at all the different types of bets and angles you can bet on. But we'll start with the upset of the week, which was the Rams, which was only upset of the week, which was yeah, no, what is it? Hold on.
I was going to say, wouldn't the upset of the week have been the 49ers on the Packers?
Oh yeah, I got it switched. My bad. It was one of the only upset. No, it was I got it switched. The favorite said that it was the upset of the week to me was the Rams. I only picked it because I think it was yeah, I got switched up. I got mixed up in my head. But it was one of the upsets
Folks,
of the week.
Caleb doesn't know what to do. The Cowboys aren't playing
Yeah, I know,
football.
right?
The world is not right.
There was three
Every,
upsets of the week,
left
but
is
I
right,
just picked
down is up, the sky is red,
yeah,
water's green.
yeah. There was three upsets of the week. I picked this one just because I thought it was the most interesting game because I didn't think the 49ers Rams game was very interesting. Um, but yeah, it didn't look like this game was going to be competitive. The Rams hadn't, took on an early lead, went up 27-3. And of course, at that moment, everybody's being reminded of 28-3 in the Super Bowl. Patriots Falcons. Brady comes back. You know, big iconic moment in Super Bowl history. But and he was doing it. He was coming back, and he almost got it. He tied it up. It looked like it was going to overtime, but then there goes Stafford. Hitting Cooper Cup and like this big old bomb, and they get in field goal range, and they got the win. And all them Rams bettors thought that was going to be Cruz, but Brady made him sweat a little bit. But the Rams, they got the upset +3. Yeah, there was 3 point spread. But they didn't need the points because they got the outright win. So what do you think about this one?
Um, I mean, you definitely hit the nail on the head when you say, sweating it out, because I think I even said it uh in one of the discords. That +3 was looking pretty good early on. Like, and I even got a few texts. I wasn't watching the game at the moment. Uh, but they coming back. Brady's playing. Can't bet against Brady. Kind of like how I referenced earlier. Finding a bit of a futures play. Something I've had in my back pocket was Rams +525. When I came across it, it was technically a odds booster, but you know, working off that 525, I've hedged against them a little bit. Kind of like what you just referenced, finding different angles. Something I will be hawking and keeping an eye on the same way I was on the 49ers money line this last week. Basically, currently now where it sits, where I'm seeing it, it's about 158, 160. Um, Essentially, what I'm looking at doing is I've already, hedged off in the past weeks, done my couple calculations. When it's all said and done, my Rams to win the NFC championship would be plus 150. But taking a money line, a 2-leg money line game total parlay. Take the over. Doesn't matter what the number is, because you're going to turn around and then do it again and take the under.
Yeah.
Because the way the odds line up, it puts you in a situation where there's 3 options. You lose a quarter a unit, and I'm sorry, regardless of what your unit is, if you're not willing to accept a quarter unit loss versus a whole unit loss, what are we doing here? Like, why are you here? So the 3 options you end up with having: a quarter unit loss, break even, or plus 150. How is that losing? I mean, in my mind, that's what I'm seeing. Like, essentially, either I could, when the playoffs started, I had a game plan. If I was able to work it, cool. Yeah, it left some positions where, I need the Rams to come through. But whereas in this past game, I had the Rams on the money line. Or no, excuse me, not the money line. I had the Rams with the points. Well, it was Tom Brady. And damn it, we've all been there. You don't
Yeah.
bet against Tom Brady. And I bet
But
against
that,
Tom Brady.
yeah.
I
But
bet against Tom Brady.
yeah, that reminds me that's why I picked this game, because it was the only game that I got right. That's why I called the upset of the week, because it's the one that I called. It was the only upset that I called
Well,
this week.
during that game, yes, those money lines got ridiculous because I know I got the Bucks early live money line somewhere around plus 350. So if Tom Brady ended up going Tom Brady, yes, my booster would have lost and my hedging would have come into play. But that you find a number like that 350 to work in your advantage, out of it at least broke even. I'd have to calculate exactly, but it would have been break even. But even when it's all said and done, I'm hoping that I see a little bit of movement out of the money line with the 49ers, because if it goes a little bit higher, it was at 165 yesterday, I believe. At that, I was seeing maybe a quarter unit basically your 3 options, instead of seeing just a quarter loss, break even, it was more like break even, about a half unit, and then your booster would be the one that hit, and you'd see that plus 150. So, yes, if you can find angles like that, it's a game. It's a chess match. We're not playing checkers out here, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Some of this stuff, yes, it seems simple. Yeah, it's simple to watch, a couple people just sit down and play chess in the park and move the pieces around. But when you get in that seat, you feel the heat. So you want to know all the angles. You want to know all the ways to come at this. And off the top of your head, it may not make sense to say, I'm gonna make this play, and then down the line, I'm gonna make these other plays intentionally going against my original play. But when you add it all up, like I said, what started out as what I believe it was plus 525. You lose a unit off of one hedge play. You lose another unit off that money line play with the Bucks, like I just mentioned. I'm I'm hoping that the money line on the 49ers comes back up, maybe goes a little higher than 165. If not, I'll take it where it's at for those couple parlays that I mentioned. And then that puts me in a situation where can't say I'm losing money or I'm winning money.
Mm-hmm.
I like that scenario. Like, that's what I'm looking for in this game, Yeah. I don't like losing. That's not
I
that's
don't think
not what I
anybody
signed
does.
up for. I didn't,
Yeah.
and that's definitely not,
I
that's not the
mean, I
information I
expect
want.
to lose, but
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I want to feel confident when I make my play. Yeah, it's the virtual age and whatnot, but if I was standing at the window looking somebody in the eye, I want to be handing them that money. Like, I'm gonna be coming back for this. Don't worry, I'm coming back for that. Yeah. So, yeah. So yeah, that is just something I found and something that I've been, like I said, working, because it doesn't always work out in your favor.
Mhm.
It's still, it may seem wild and all over the place, but there's still some strategy to it. This ain't just random picking, and I don't take shots in the dark. I try to have some basis and It doesn't necessarily have to be stats, but you need some knowledge and some know-how behind what
Yeah,
you're doing before you do it. And I think that applies to just about anything in life.
for sure, man. All right, we'll get to the bad beat of the week. And I think this is a clear bad beat because I mean it's 13 seconds. 13 damn seconds. And all those Bills betters, would have went home happy. That's all they needed. I mean, Chiefs got down with 13 seconds left on the clock. They get in field goal range, send it to overtime. And basically, at that moment, going into overtime, basically you're just betting on a coin flip because with the how the offenses were playing, you knew whoever's going to win it was going to go down and going to score. So basically, at that point, it was your bet. You have 50-50 chance on your bet. And it just turned out that the Chiefs got the ball. They went down. They scored the touchdown. Um, but yeah, I had the Bills in this one because I just didn't think I thought the Bills would contain their Chiefs weapons a little bit better than they did. Um, but they couldn't handle them, and yeah, just that 13 seconds just bad prevent defense that they were playing led to the bad beat of the week. So what do you think of this game, man?
Honestly, this was probably the most exciting game of the playoffs. It may be unfortunate to say that, given you have the championship rounds and the Super Bowl to come, but this was likely the most exciting game of the playoffs. And
Yeah, it was.
I mean, just the back and forth. I mean, you couldn't walk away. You couldn't turn it off. Like this was. Oh, somewhere Roger Goodell was having a wet dream on this one because, this is exactly what you dream of. Back and forth, nonstop. Oh, there's only 13 seconds left. Oh, I give you Patrick Mahomes. I give you KC. I give you the worst defense. Like, as a Panthers fan, I believe Sean McDermott needs to be fired. So, the Panthers can go ahead and fire Matt Rule and just to rectify a long time mistake that, maybe it should have been Ron Rivera not sticking around as long as he did, but, bring McDermott back, see if he can't rekindle his success.
Only the
Since it didn't
Batman.
happen, since it won't seem to have worked out in Buffalo, I wouldn't be too upset if something like that happened to a
Yeah,
team. But
that's
yeah,
yeah.
no, it was just truly probably one of the most wild games that we'll see in a long time. I think this establishes um basically Allen and Mahomes kind of in the conversation for the next Manning Brady sort of rivalry, and also sort
Exactly.
of that you expect these two teams in the playoffs, and not just to get into the playoffs, to have success and to be staples in the playoffs. Um, hopefully that makes a lot of Bills fans happy because honestly, I can't imagine a fan base that deserves a Super Bowl more. A lot of young fans out there, and even I'm barely even old enough to say I was alive for it, but the Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost. Like, think about that for a second. Everybody wants to praise, you know, what is it, KC and Mahomes for 3 straight Super Bowls or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
or well, the Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost every single one. How do you do that? How do you survive as a fan base? Like, how do you have any faith in your team to ever win the Super Bowl when you went to 4 straight? Four
Mm-hmm.
straight. I mean, there it's 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 beyond words, honestly. And so to be in a situation where you're in the playoffs and you have 13 seconds left, and we see what Patrick Mahomes did with 13 seconds. Like, I mean, he turned Josh Allen sitting on the bench into a meme. This game created a whole spark into how people people should, or how there should be a change into the overtime rules. And so there you go. That's a question for you. Let me ask you, What do you think there should be a change in the NFL overtime
No,
rules?
I
See, I really
do not.
agree with you in the sense that it, at least for not the reasons people are saying. Now, if they want to go to a more college like system, okay, I could
I don't like the
not.
college system.
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily an exact transplant. Maybe put the ball at the 50 and give both offenses
I
give the
don't
teams
need
a
both
shot.
offenses to get a shot. I don't care about fairness. I don't know why people are sticking onto this fairness point.
No,
I'm
and
just not
that's what I'm
into
saying.
that.
I
Like
agree with you.
the fairness was the 60 minutes in regulation. That was
Ex-
fair. Overtime,
exactly.
just end the game.
Yeah,
Like get the game done.
and see, and also what a lot of people fail to realize, something that's kept in mind, especially when it comes to things like overtime, is you can't you can't expect to ask the players to play more, not necessarily more than what is expected, but it is something that is logically taken into account when you try and do something like design a sport or something of this magnitude, because you need something in place that survives several instances and scenarios. And so me personally, yes, I agree. Win it in regulation. Don't whine about it in OT.
Yeah. Because I mean, all you gotta do play a little defense, and then you win the game. 13 seconds of defense. That's it. That's all you gotta do. But you can do it. When you get into overtime, you still have another shot. Play defense and don't let them go down on you and score a touchdown. But you can do it. So yeah, if you can't do it, then you don't deserve to win.
Exactly. Now something I heard interestingly brought up. Uh Now tell me this ain't wild. The idea was more or less, you line both teams up at maybe the 40, maybe the 35. You bring a drone in holding the football and you drop it at the 50-yard line. You have the drone sit about, 10, 15 yards in the, so you're guaranteed to get a bounce and the ball moving in some direction. We all know that a football will bounce in any direction it wants to go. So you could see some very interesting uh you can see the play develop. Players running around, scrums, pile ups, whatever. But I thought that that would be a very interesting and maybe more interactive way to decide first possession than a coin flip, because you know, I mean, yes, you probably can't. There's probably nothing more fair than a coin flip. 50-50. But I think to a certain degree, people want to see the game dictated by the players, regardless of how that occurs. And so, even some, if,
But it was like just
well,
play. It's
yes,
a team sport. It's not dictated by just the quarterbacks. That's why I don't
well,
care
see,
about
but
them getting the like. It's a
that's where
team
you
game.
start getting
Play
into a
defense.
situ. That's where you start getting into a situation where, to a certain degree, it's dictated by the rules and the people that made the rules. Because, see, the only true way that it'd be dictated by the players, if you're talking about an overtime period, is you got to play a whole period. But then you run into the scenario like what you see in other sports where it's more timed, like basketball, where then you still end up potentially with 3 and 4 extra overtime periods. And I think in a sport like football, where at times it can get as violent as it does, that can, I hate to say, increase the chance for injuries and stuff like that, but that's a big concern with everybody.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, going my with my picks now of last week, I had a pretty terrible week. I went 1-3. But I'm not all that mad about it. Because all the games were close. So I can't really be upset about that because they could have gone either way. So I could have won. Could win 3-1. Could win all of them. Just depending how some plays go for the teams I picked. And could have had a winning week this week, but it is what it is. But I picked the Packers. They lost off of special teams, um, but I did correctly predict that the Niners wouldn't score that much on offense because they really just scored on that special teams play, and that was my thinking going into it. That's why I had the Packers because I didn't think the 49ers would score, and that did happen. Just Packers didn't score themselves.
The
Um,
49ers didn't score a single touchdown on offense and
yeah,
won the game.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
I mean, I
Now,
can't predict that. Like, I can't
yeah,
predict that.
exactly. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm saying. This isn't of course you think this is about trying to be right. That's what everybody thinks this is about. This is trying to be
Yeah, yeah,
right.
that's what I'm saying. I had
No.
part of it right because I
Yeah,
did think
we're
they
just
would score
trying to
that
end
much.
up on the right side of things because nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody. The same way you don't know which way that damn football is going to bounce when it hits the ground. Don't, sports books, they might have a good idea. Experts, they might have a good idea, but don't nobody know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and then in the Bengals Titans game, again, I had a part of it right because I did think the Titans would play good defense. They would limit the Bengals big play offense. They held them under 20 points, which I thought that would happen. And I couldn't anticipate that Tannehill would just totally shit the bed and pretty much give the game away. Like I can't I don't think he'll automatically just have a crappy game like he did, but he ended up having a terrible game, which lost them, which ended up having the Bengals win. So that happened, and then the Bills had the Bills, and yeah, just basically a coin flip. The 50-50 chance I was going with the Bills, and that's how it ended up happening. And like I said, I thought the Bills would play better defense than they did because I mean they played good defense all season, and
I was
for
gonna
them
say,
to
you
just
mean
fall
the
apart
number
this.
one defense and number one pass defense in the league isn't good enough to potentially give your team a chance to win?
you know, just didn't have them. But yeah, because I thought they would contain you really have like two guys to contain. You got Hill and Kelsey. That's really all you have to pinpoint. You take care of them, you win the game. They couldn't do it, so they lost.
Yeah, and I mean that's what we saw a lot of early on in the season, and I think what ended up happening, basically we saw a lot of cover two, and now I don't have have film handy to necessarily go in and try and research this and back it up, but of course, if you're hearing about it from the big name medias and whatnot, of course it's happening. But we saw a lot of cover two and things like that, and high, more or less safety coverage, not letting them blow the top off the defense. And when you execute that properly, and not to say that they don't have the personnel or the coaching or the know-how, but when you execute that properly, we've seen what it can do to this team, and you limit them. Where hell, instead of playing a damn prevent defense, go play the cover two.
Yeah, they
Hell,
should
play
just
cover four. That's what I don't
just
understand
play
about the.
any normal defense. You just play
Yeah,
any
exactly.
normal
But
defense in
that's what.
prevent.
But that's really what I don't understand about a lot of these prevent defensive stance. I don't even. I don't care. A Hail Mary, okay. If we're talking 60 something yards, okay, that's a little different. But if we're talking a legitimate shot to the end zone, like more or less, why don't we see some sort of just variation on a cover four shell? I'm not the biggest defensive X's and O's guys. On the offensive side, I can get a little creative with things, and I know a little bit more and schemes and so on. But yeah, cover four, two high safeties, two high DBs. Your linebackers are playing some sort of underneath zone
Yeah,
coverage.
and you really shouldn't have any. You should have like one defensive lineman and rest all linebackers.
Well, but that's where you get into something wacky where you don't want the quarterback just standing there and literally not having to
Well, because if the
worry.
quarterback runs, then that just runs out the time. So
No, no, no. I'm not talking about necessarily forcing him out of the pocket. I just mean in the sense if he knows he can stand back there and not have to worry at all, I mean, it's
Well, again, if he stands back there, then that's still running off the time.
but you still it gives him time to
Yeah, but
find a
he
better
has
wide
one
receiver.
play instead of two plays.
But but see, I'm not necessarily just talking about just a Hail Mary instance. Like if we're talking about a late game instance, like
Mm,
say it wasn't 13 seconds. Say it was more 45 seconds. You see something like more like a cover 4 instead of a prevent defense, you know, basically like I said, if you're only rushing literally one or two guys, the quarterback is literally just going to stand there and let the wide receivers run around, and more or less, yeah, they might burn off a little more clock, but you're more likely to see a 20+ yard play because whereas yeah, they ran their route, now you just sandlotting it and run into the empty space, and that's what you don't want in coverage, and especially when you're playing zone. You don't necessarily have to get to the quarterback, but you got to make the quarterback work and go through his progressions. So even if it's only a 3-man rush, kind of what you see happen even in a Hail Mary scenario. The pocket may not collapse, but the quarterback has to react to what they're doing. So he may roll out of the pocket, slide out a little bit, doesn't have any real pressure, but somebody's coming eventually. And when that clock's ticking, it makes you think, it makes you work, and eventually, it's going to cause something to happen. Where you see a lot of the failure occur is like with this prevent defense, when you're 30 yards downfield, you can't get to anybody. You can't do anything unless they come to you.
mm,
And that's why I just say, something as simple as something more of a cover 4, maybe you throw extra DBs out there in more linebacker position, dime, whatever, but you're still talking about having some two or three guys underneath, around maybe 10, 15 yards, 4 or 5 dudes 20 yards deep, not so far that they can't make a play. Maybe when the snap occurs, they were about 10 yards deep, 12 yards deep, you know. But what we saw clearly did not work.
no. All right. How'd you do this week?
Well, like I was saying earlier, I was able to find, a couple of plus money angles and basically end up break even on a couple other things. As I've said, I'm keeping my eyes on the San Fran money line because I've seen a little bit of movement so far, but not much. I mean, it opened at plus 150, 155. I saw it as high as 165. It's currently basically 160 right at the middle. Um, I'm not going to sit here and say that I expect any certain movement. If I do see it drop basically back to that 155, 150 range, I might go ahead and put in those parlays, like I said. Just go ahead and establish my position and mark it off then. I am trying to hold out to see if that line will move a bit in my favor. Maybe we get closer to that plus 200 range, and then I'm looking at something more along the lines of plus 100 at least both ways, because I got the plus 125 plus 150 on the other side, whatever it is. So you find yourself in a situation like that's winning. That's all it is. There is no third option. There's winning and then there's winning. You know, it's either X or Y, but it's still winning.
All right, man. All right. We'll get into this week's games, and we'll start off with the Cincinnati Bengals +7 at the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a big point spread for a championship game. And that's why I like the Bengals because I just think there's too much points that they're getting. I think probably the Chiefs will win. But yeah, they won't. Considering how close the games were last week, I feel like when you get down this point of the playoffs, like these teams are too closely matched, and I just don't think you're 7 points better than the other team, and that's why I'll take the points here. The Chiefs, have a horrible secondary. I don't think they'll be able to stop, Jamar Chase and all the other Bengals receivers. They gave up 36 to the Bills. And I was like, because Bengals defense been playing a little bit better. They've only allowed more than 26 points once in the last 7 games. And yeah, Bengals are pretty good against the spread, 7-2 on the road, and 6-0 in the last 6. So I definitely think they can cover in this one. What do you have?
Well, first of all, let me ask you this: since you like the Bengals so much, do you think they
The
can win
cover, to
outright?
cover. Let's get the cover.
No,
We'll go cover.
yeah, but I'm just that's an interesting conversation there now because yes, touchdown is a big number in a championship game, but here's the difference. You were just talking about how you didn't expect the Bengals to score a lot against Tennessee, and they
Because
didn't.
they have a better defense. The Titans have a good defense.
But here's what I'm getting at: more or
Chiefs don't
less,
have good defense.
yes, but Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times. 9 times. That's insane. That's utterly insane.
But that's what I said because I thought Titans have that deep type of defense that can do that. I just don't believe
Wh-
he'll have to wait that long for someone to get open.
but I, I
I
do.
think their receiver is going to beat their bad secondary and they're going to get open quick. So he won't
Yeah,
have to
no,
sit
I
there and wait
definitely agree
and
that
get
this is
sacked.
going. There's going to be some scoring in this game. I definitely agree that I think there could be sacks, multiple sacks on both sides of the ball. I just will not say that I have faith in the Bengal the Bengals offensive line. Now to say in their offense, they've clearly proven they've had one of the top offenses this year. That Joe Burrow Jamar Chase connection has been unstoppable all year. I'm not saying that they won't go out and score points. I just got a feeling this game's going to end up being something like 21-35, 21-40, 27-40, something like that, where yeah, we see the Bengals put up some points, but we see the Chiefs put up a lot more points
And even
because
even if you that does happen to get up like that, I don't. I feel like the Bengals get a backdoor cover. Maybe
oh
late
yeah,
in the
no, I
game
completely agree with you. That would
because I
definitely
think
be
they have
on the
that type of
table.
offense. Just quick score and then and bam, they
Oh
cover.
yeah, you find yourself in a you got a 10-point lead, 6-7 minutes to go left in the game. Bengals end up with the ball by the time it takes them. Not you still get that quick score, but even if it's only a 2-3 minute drive, you know you might go for that onside kick. You might not. You might not see the ball back type of scenario. Yeah, you can definitely get that backdoor cover. I just don't think the Bengals will be able to keep up with the Chiefs. And I could be wrong here, but yeah, so I'm gonna be on the other side with this one. Uh, Now, if you're somebody that think the Bengals could win straight up, um, do something like put a half unit on the spread, put a half unit on the money line because that money line's sitting at plus 275 right now.
Yeah,
That's a,
that's pretty good value there.
exactly, and so because if that money line hits, you still win both because you got that plus number on the spread.
All right, we'll get into the next game. uh, NFC Championship, San Francisco 49ers at the Los Angeles Rams. The Niners again 3.5. And again, I'll take the underdog here and I'll take 3.5. Just because we've seen it over and over and over again. Kyle Shanahan has McVay's number. McVay has not beaten him. 6-0 against him, and I'm just gonna keep on rolling. When something like that happens that often, I'm just gonna keep rolling it till it doesn't happen. Um, so yeah, I like the Niners. The Packers, they did hell of a number on the Packers offense, which is really good. It's like just as I think they're just as good as the Rams offense. And they held them to 10 points, and they sacked them 5 times. And that's the thing. The Niners get some constant pressure. And they did that the last 2 weeks. They did it against the Cowboys. They did it against the Packers, and constant pressure. And I think they can do it again against Stafford. It's probably less mobile than Aaron Rodgers or Dak Prescott. So I definitely they can do it against Stafford. And yeah, the matchup in Week 18 was pretty much the same spread. was at 3.5, and the Niners won that. And yeah, so I think they'll get the honestly, I think they'll get the outright upset. But even if they don't, even if they lose, I still think this game is a field goal game either way. So if they lose by a field goal, I still have that half point that gets me to
Oh yeah,
cover.
that hook can be a valuable thing.
Yeah, so that's what gives me confidence in this one because I do think it'll be like a field goal game, no matter who wins.
Yeah, like I said earlier in the show, I'm chasing plus money on this one. Like I said, I've got myself positioned in a situation where if this line moves a little bit more in my favor, I'm gonna might test the water and see how high it goes, but come in, hedge off. Uh, if it drops a little bit lower, just go in and stake my position. Um, but yeah, like you were just saying with that, that hook on that 3.5, that's what makes that a very strong play. If you feel like this game will come down to a field goal, you get that tie situation, uh, late last second field goal to win it, boom, bang, you still cover regardless of which way that field goal is going. Um, like I said, if the line does move in my favor, maybe get around when you start talking that 175 range, 180, you're starting to talk about points on the spread actually moving a little bit. I saw it go as high as 165 and it was still showing that same 3.5. Uh, so yeah, once you start, creeping a little bit more, if you think this is a game where maybe you think money's going to come in on the Rams, be a more public team, uh, that spread grows a little bit, that money line moves a little bit more, you might be able to catch this team, at a 4.5, maybe closer to 5 at the closing number. But so far, it hadn't been much movement in the line, though it is only Wednesday. We still have a number of days for people to come in and money to come in. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna be chasing positive money on this one because like I said, winning is winning, and we sure as heck ain't showing up to lose.
And that's both the games there. But I'll pick the over and under for both games. Last week I did pretty well. I did let's see, what was it? I think I went 3-1 last week on the over and unders, so I did pretty well, better than the spread.
What was
But
that one? I'm just curious. What was that one loss? Because I imagine the overs hit in just about everything.
actually they went 2-2 on the overs. I forget who I picked. I think it was a Rams game. I think it was a Rams game. I think I picked under on that one over.
Yeah, depending on how early you knew about the weather, I think that was easy to say. Could definitely be a under because those conditions, you get into stuff like that. You know, you go outside in temperatures like that. Just tell me you want to be outside, yet alone try and do something. I don't care where you're from. You can find temperature. You know what cold is. You know what, like here in North Carolina, currently we got, we're dealing with freezing temperatures a little more so of your more common winter weather that's up north. But like I just said, go outside for 20, 30 minutes, not with no jacket on, not bundled up or anything, and see how long you want to be out there. Then tell me you want to go spend a couple hours out there and play football. You
Yeah,
know, so to say that they were in, true frigid, freezing cold temperatures and they're out there to play a football game, yeah, I expect the under to come in a situation like that.
yeah,
Um, weather can be a great advantage. Uh, there was a friendly instance at work. Another cook challenge wanted to make a bet. It was Canada versus Mexico national teams, and I believe it was a I always suck at saying the dang federation name, but the equivalent of is to get into like the World Cups. I believe it was just a qualifier. Uh, but they were playing in Canada. it was snowing, like damn near blizzard, snowing, and they were still going to play the soccer match. Like the field was clear, but there's literally snowbanks on the side of the field, and the cook still wanted to bet me. He came to me with it. It was like Mexico versus Canada in the snow. And y'all was just telling me how in the past week, them playing in Columbia, Ohio in the cold was affecting them. Yeah, I'll take Canada. Give me Canada. Yeah. So yeah, things like the weather can go a long way if how you find the right angle.
Mm-hmm.
Do you happen to have that game total for what it was for that Packers game?
Let's see.
Because I'm willing to imagine it hit fairly well under, or
No, Packers or Rams game.
the Packers game. It had to at least be tracking towards the under for a large portion of the game.
It was 47 the total.
And what was that final score?
13-10.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, there was a couple instances where you probably thought maybe a touchdown or two might have been scored, sitting somewhere around that halfway point in the game. But yeah, frigid cold, you know, better defenses, won't necessarily say some of the best defenses or, top defenses in the league, but some of the better defenses.
Yeah. I knew that one would go under. Well, and I thought most of them were under. I only think I picked one over. That's why I went 3-1. But for these games, I have Bengals Chiefs, and I like the over. It's a big total. It's 54.5. But the way the Chiefs put up points last week, the way I think the Bengals can put up points, and the way the Chiefs defense is, just not, that good. Um, I believe they both teams will score big, and I think they can reach over 54.5. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that one. Because that, like you said, yes, it's a big number, but at the same time, I think that there's going to be a lot of scoring. It's that simple. The game might not end up as close, one way or the other. But I still think there'll be a lot of scoring. I think this number could easily get into the 60s. Whether it be 35, 32, or 40-21. I think 60 is very possible for this game as far as the total figure.
And on the Niners Rams game, the total was 46, and I'm going to take the under. Niners, they I think the last two games gone under for them. So I think their defense is just that good. I think they'll hold the Rams offense from scoring a lot of points, and they just don't score that many themselves. So yeah, it's only 46, but I don't see a lot of points in this game, so I'll take the under.
I can get behind that. Kyle Shanahan and they're methodical. And a lot of what you said, about Kyle Shanahan and just knowing this Rams team and having their number, it plays into something along those lines of, even if you don't feel that the 49ers win this game, it's going to be a more hard fought, more, back and forth, more of that slugfest, less big play, grind it out. It might be a situation where maybe the passing game doesn't work as well, and you see maybe more of the Rams running game. And if that's something you feel, maybe looking at Sony Michel Russian prop or Cam Akers Russian prop is the way to go. Instead of maybe approaching this from a potential side or a total aspect.
All right, man. That's all the bets we have for this week. We won't be on next week because I mean I don't bet the Pro Bowl. I don't know if you bet the Pro Bowl.
I would have no reason to ever bet the Pro Bowl. And this is a man that is potentially coming with, you know, Mexican La Liga MX soccer plays. Okay. And I am not going to ever bet the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, so we'll be off next week. We'll be back on Super Bowl week to talk all the different props of the Super Bowl. But yeah, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, y'all can find me at DWeatherly90 on Twitter. Um, I also do a segment within Lunch Break Hot Takes on their show Wednesday nights live. The show starts at 7:15. If you know, just all around sports, and it is centered on Ravens and Panthers talk, but a lot of stuff gets covered. I come on at 8 with a betting segment currently covering the NFL, and in the future be branching out with basketball, some college pros, and like I said, maybe some Mexican soccer.
All right. You can find me at NFL Caleb 22 on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me on this channel on the Highlights Sports Show with Ferris and Good Friends, Better Rivals. And you can find my betting articles on the website, letsgetreadynetwork.com. Yeah, like and subscribe. And yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Peace, y'all.